Welcome back to the Easy VC Brief. I'm your host, Max von Polnitz, and this is your weekly espresso shot to deep tech venture capital news. This week, we're going all in with more physical AI and robotics news. It's a fascinating space, and one company just announced it's going public. I'll link it to the comments an earlier episode we did in the space as well. 3 stories today. The Humanoid robot IPO that Wall Street has been waiting for, a Foothill Ventures portfolio company you're going to want to know about, and a European robotics bet that flips the script on how we think about go-to-market in this category. Let's go. Story 1. First up, last Tuesday, June 24th, Agility Robotics announced it's going public via a SPAC merger. Yep, that's SPAC, with Churchill Capital Corp at a $2.5 billion valuation, raising over $620 million in the process. It's expected to list on the NASDAQ as early as September of this year. Here's why this matters. Agility, the maker of a bipedal humanoid robot called Digit, just became the first pure-play humanoid robotics company to hit the public markets in the United States. Think about that for a second. Figure AI is valued at $39 billion privately. Boston Dynamics, you might have heard of their robot dog, is tucked inside Hyundai's balance sheet. And Tesla's Optimus is buried inside an already very public car company. But I'm not that optimistic that a standalone humanoid company can match public scrutiny. The financials are still super early stage. Operating expenses hit $111 million in 2025. The company burned through roughly $100 million in cash, and crucially, they haven't even disclosed revenue yet. But here's what they do have that most of their competitors don't. 65,000 hours of real-world operational data. Digit is running inside live warehouses for GXO Logistics, Toyota Motor Manufacturing Canada, and Mercado Libre, just to name a few. The technical edge? Agility just unveiled Digit version 5 with NVIDIA Halos, a full-stack safety architecture that extends 18,600 engineering years of autonomous vehicle safety development into humanoid robots. The hardware runs on NVIDIA's IGX Thor module with a dedicated functional safety island. That's the same safety integrity level used in systems where failure can cause serious injury. And that's a real concern in humanoid robots. And to top it off, they got Foxconn as their pipe lead, which is the company that figured out how to manufacture iPhones at scale. Not shabby. My take, the $2.5 billion valuation is still relatively modest, especially given the sector hype. But we'll need to better understand their pipeline and true recurring customer feedback once we understand revenues. Certainly want to watch if you love this space. Story 2. Now, here at Foothill Ventures, we've been making our own bets on the physical AI wave. And one company I want to spotlight today is Anyware Robotics, a Fremont, California-based company we backed as part of their $12 million seed round last year. Think about the dirtiest job in your local warehouse or in a 3PL. I'm not talking mildly unpleasant. I'm talking standing inside a metal shipping container for 8 hours in the heat or the cold, manually pulling 50-pound boxes off a stack and loading them into a conveyor belt. It's one of the highest injury, highest turnover jobs in logistics, and companies have been desperate for a solution for decades. Anyware's robot, called Pixmo, is a mobile manipulator that drives itself into a container, uses 3D perception sensors and an AI brain trained on real warehouse data, and unloads boxes autonomously. Their first commercial customer, Western Post, is handling over 45,000 containers a year. Pixmo is already deployed across multiple 3PLs, and the team came out of Amazon Robotics. Technically, Anywhere takes a pull motion approach rather than a complex pick-and-place robotics. Pixmo uses a patent-pending conveyor accessory that dramatically increases throughput and reliability. I highly recommend you check out their website. The videos are totally worth watching. One of the key issues in logistics are those fringe cases, and Anywhere has been very smart in optimizing both their software and hardware to limit human involvement. Reach out to me if you find this compelling. If you're an LP or you're strategic in logistics, distribution, or supply chain, this is a company worth getting on your radar now. We'd love to make an intro. Our third story today takes us across the Atlantic to Barcelona. Because this week, Theka Robotics announced an $85 million Series A, the largest robotics Series A ever raised in Europe. The round was led by CRV with participation from Samsung and our friends at Cathay Innovation. Now, if you've been following Humanoid Robotics, you might assume the European play is just slower, more regulatory constrained version of what's happening in Silicon Valley. But I want to challenge that framing because Thacker is doing something meaningfully different, and it has everything to do with go-to-market. Here's the insight. American robotics companies tend to go wide and then deep. They build general purpose platforms, shoot for the biggest total addressable market, and then work backward to specific use cases. Now, obviously, Anyware Robotics, which we backed, is not in that play, but the large humanoid players are. Thacker is doing something opposite. They are selling directly into operations and logistics leaders, deploying in days to weeks rather than months. Their service or robot as a service model means they stay on the hook for performance even after installation. Every live deployment generates proprietary data on real objects, crumpled garments, soft packaging, irregular parcels. That trains their model and makes their next deployment faster. Makes sense. And Europe turns out to be surprisingly well suited for it. You have a structural labor shortage, high regulatory pressure on working conditions, and critically, a base of industrial and luxury conglomerates like Inditex, LVMH, and Henkel, who are both customers and investors in Thacker. That's not just a go-to-market advantage, it's a product feedback loop baked into the cap table. The founders, Carla and Jianxiang Yeju, met competing in robotics at UPC Barcelona, co-founded the university's Robotics Association together, and built Thacker as a full-stack company. Proprietary AI software, custom electronics, in-house grippers, and their own manufacturing. That vertical integration is what lets them debug a gripper failure in live fashion warehouses and push a fix across the fleet. Here's my insight though. The European model of embedding strategic corporates as investors and customers from day one is actually a smart physical AI go-to-market playbook. At Foothill Ventures, we work closely with CVC and strategic investors for exactly the same purpose. Some technologies need that additional go-to-market leverage. Okay, that's your brief for this week. 3 storylines. 1 thesis. Physical AI is leaving the lab and entering the warehouse, the factory floor, and the shipping container. The question is no longer whether robots can do the work, it's whether you can deploy them at scale, generate real-world data faster than your competitors, and build the customer trust that turns a pilot into a fleet. We are tracking speed, consistency, and maintenance costs to ultimately support some of the structural labor gaps we have in the market today. As a summary, Agility is about to let the public markets answer that question out loud this September. Anywhere is quietly building one of the most defensible niches in logistics automation, and Thacker is proving that Barcelona can be a world-class hub for physical AI. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share it with a founder or LP you think might find it valuable, and leave us a review. I'm Max von Polnitz. Catch you next Thursday.